Hi, it's Sylvester, and I wanted to talk about some of the downsides of being a trans man on testosterone. Now, don't get me wrong, being on testosterone is one of the greatest things that I've ever experienced. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I am very, very thankful to live in a place where I am able to access hormone replacement therapy, and I do not regret it in any way, shape, or form. But as with all good things, it does have its downsides, and it's part of the trans experience, or at least it's part of my trans experience, and so I wanted to talk about said downsides. I also want to point out that I am very aware of my privilege. I know that being a trans man is a lot easier than being a trans woman for so many reasons. I'm very thankful that I basically don't have to deal with misogyny anymore. I mean, sometimes some people still view me as a woman, and so I do sometimes deal with sexism, but for the most part, I'm pretty free from having to deal with misogyny, and I especially don't have to deal with trans misogyny, so I am very grateful for that. And again, I am aware of my privilege. I do know that, first of all, I'm very privileged to be able to access testosterone, and secondly, I'm very privileged to be a trans man instead of a trans feminine person, because I do know that it is considerably harder to be a trans feminine person. I mean, I could never really know. I can never really have that experience, but from what I've heard, it sounds a whole lot harder than what I've been through. Again, I'm not trying to come across as negative or like I'm complaining too much in this video. I mean, I am going to be complaining, but this is all in good fun. Again, for the most part, I am very, very happy to be on testosterone, and it has definitely changed my life for the better, so I'm not trying to come across as a Debbie Downer here, alright? Anyway, let's get into the actual video and talk about some of the downsides of being a trans man on testosterone in no particular order. The first thing is transphobia. This is not specific to trans men or people who are on testosterone. It's just being trans in general. The worst thing about it is transphobia, basically. I can't speak for all trans people, but I'm pretty sure a lot of trans people would say that the worst part about being trans is having to deal with transphobia. And again, I'm lucky that I don't have to deal with trans misogyny, but I didn't realize how much transphobia there was in the world until I became a trans person, or came out as a trans person. I guess I've always been a trans person, but you know what I mean. The next downside of being a trans man on testosterone is that I have to give myself a needle every week. I am lucky that I am not squeamish and I don't have any issues with needles, but it is still not fun to have to stab a needle into my leg every week. It is not something I look forward to. Next is body hair. This might sound weird because I am grateful for my body hair. You might think that having a lot of body hair would help with my gender dysphoria, and don't get me wrong, it does. I like my hairy body quite a bit, and I especially like that I am not pressured socially into shaving my armpits and legs and my entire body. I am very grateful that pretty much the only thing I'm expected to shave is my face, and even then, I don't really have to do that because beards are a thing and are acceptable. But body hair in general is not something that we as a society think of as sexy. I just, to test this theory out, Googled hot topless men, and I looked at the results, and there was basically no body hair to be seen. So even though I am grateful for my body hair, I do feel like it is not what society considers to be super attractive. I feel like we generally like men who are smooth and hairless. So I like my body hair, but there is a lot of it. I am a very, very hairy man. My stomach, my chest, my butt, my back, everything is hairy, and so it is not exactly what society wants from people. And so this complaint really isn't about testosterone, it's more about societal beauty standards. Can we just make body hair sexy? Can we accept that body hair is natural and normal, not just for men, but for women and everyone? We should just stop being scared of body hair, because we seriously have a lot of issues with body hair. The next thing is hair loss. You grow hair everywhere, but the hair on the top of your head goes away. And I'm only 31, but I'm fairly certain at this point that I'm going to be bald by the time I'm 40. And again, this isn't really a complaint about testosterone. It's more of a complaint about society and societal beauty standards, because men who are balding is not considered to be the epitome of male sexiness. You know, people often make fun of men who are balding, and it is not something that we have any control over. And again, this is not something that's specific to trans men, but we as a society need to be a lot kinder to men who lose their hair, because it's a thing. Men often lose their hair. Can we get over it, and can we start finding it sexy, please? Because I'm probably going to start going bald soon. It's already happening. Next, and I complained about this in a previous video that I just made, is acne. I never had much acne before I came out as trans, but then I started on testosterone, and it was pimple city, man. I just can't get away from the pimples. They just keep coming. The pimples come, and they don't stop coming, and it's just it's not the worst thing in the world, but I just don't love it, Perhaps this is another example of how societal beauty standards need to change, but acne is generally not considered to be super sexy and super attractive, and so it is something that makes me feel a little bit self-conscious, and I have a bad habit of popping my pimples and picking at them, which makes it all that much worse. So I really gotta stop doing that. That's more of a me problem than a testosterone problem. I expected to get acne when I first started on testosterone because you go through puberty, and so I figured once puberty was over that the acne would kind of go away, but the acne has not really gone away. So that's just something I kind of have to deal with and kind of have to learn to accept. And we as a society need to accept that acne is natural, it is normal, and there is nothing wrong with it. My next complaint is something that really isn't a problem for me anymore, but when I first started on testosterone, it was a little bit addictive. I mean, testosterone is essentially just steroids, so it is a controlled substance, and you do have to be careful how you use it. But I think a lot of it was in my head. I think it was psychological, but I felt like I was addicted to it. As soon as I started using it, I felt like I just needed more. And so I'd start injecting on Thursdays, and then I wouldn't be able to wait until Thursday, and then I'd move my date to injecting on Wednesdays, and then I wouldn't be able to wait till Wednesday, and so I would start injecting on Tuesdays. And it was just one of those things where every week I looked forward to getting testosterone because I had it in my head that I just wanted to transition as fast as possible, and I thought, like, more testosterone right away, and I'll transition faster. And so I think I don't think I was physically addicted to it, but I do think psychologically I was addicted to the feeling of having testosterone injected into me, because it just made me think that I was feeling more manly. Like, again, I'm pretty sure it was all in my head, because nowadays when I inject testosterone, I don't feel like a surge of masculinity flowing through my body. But when I first started on testosterone, I kind of did. Like, every time I would inject, I would feel so good for the first couple days afterwards and then as the week progressed, I would start to feel sadder and less masculine and tired, and by the time the day came for me to inject, I was just so excited and just wanted to do it so bad. And so I'm glad that I was able to rein that in and didn't start abusing my testosterone, because I almost certainly would have had it taken away from me. But that is something to kind of beware of if you're somebody who's thinking about going on testosterone, is that at the beginning, if you're a certain kind of person, you can kind of become addicted to the feeling, or at least the idea of it. And my final complaint is the fear that I have that I might not be able to access my testosterone. At this point, the testosterone is mostly just to stop menstruation, because all of the physical things that have happened to me are pretty much permanent. Like, the body hair is permanent, the beard is permanent, the voice change is permanent. A lot of stuff that has happened with my body is permanent, and even if I stop taking testosterone, my beard's not just going to suddenly disappear, my voice isn't suddenly going to start being higher, but it is stopping me from having periods, and periods are the worst, and they cause me a ton of gender dysphoria, and so I am constantly scared that a time's going to come where I'm not going to be able to access my testosterone for whatever reason, and I'm going to have to start menstruating again, and that honestly terrifies me. In fact, even when I'm on testosterone, every once in a while, I find myself scared that I'm going to start my period, and then I have to remind myself, wait, I'm on testosterone. That doesn't happen to me anymore. But it's still like a constant fear in my head where I'll be walking down the street and I might feel a little bit of moisture or something, and I'll be like, oh no, did my period just start? And I'll start freaking out and then be like, wait, I forgot. I don't have a period anymore. And so it is a constant fear that I'm going to someday get my period again. And you're probably thinking to yourself, Sylvester, why don't you just get your uterus removed? Well, I had chest surgery, and I gotta say, I'm not a fan of surgery. It was not a fun experience. I don't want to say I don't recommend it, because if you need chest surgery, then absolutely go for it. But if you don't need surgery, if you don't feel like it's absolutely necessary, I'd say probably don't have surgery, because it is definitely not a fun experience, not something you really want to go through unless you absolutely have to. And so with my uterus, if there ever does come a time where I'm not able to access testosterone, then I will definitely consider getting my uterus removed. Right now, my uterus isn't really bothering anybody. It's just there, and as long as I'm on testosterone, I'm not going to menstruate, and it's all going to be fine. Knock on wood. But I do still constantly live with the fear that someday I won't be able to access my testosterone and my periods will return, and that is something that gives me some nightmares. Honestly, there's probably more stuff that's bad about being on testosterone, but I can't really think of anything else right now. So that's my list of complaints that I have about being on testosterone. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Stay frosty. Bye.